see the medic. It's my hamstring. Looks like it's gone. But I feel fudged. Goodbye, venue. Time to go home on the bus. Ooh, I can literally walk. I'm just hobbling. I went and got a massage. Calf massage. And some medical kind of treatment. Try and ease the muscle. But I feel like just got my stuff. Everyone thinks I'm crazy because I have such a big bag like this. I haven't slept yet. I'll sleep when I get home, but I'm gonna go and catch the train. I feel seriously fudged. I'm finding it really hard to walk at the moment. So everything just takes 100 times longer right now. Everything's just so sore, so tight. But it's done, guys. 62 miles is complete. And now I've just got to kind of suffer with the consequences. If someone asked me would I do it again, I'd say maybe ask me tomorrow. But I'm home now, guys. I'm gonna sort all my stuff out. I tried to sleep on the train for about 2 hours, if that. So feeling pretty exhausted right now. So I'm gonna have a shower and just relax and wash my hair and feel like half a human being again. Hi. I've currently got bags of peas by my feet right now. Oh my gosh, that's so cold. Because it's currently sweltering right now. And I can't have a fan on because that would just be really annoying background noise. But look, guys, you can tell I've been running because look, I have the blisters are starting to appear again. So guys, 100k. I'm gonna get you back in your holder. So it's actually been 2 weeks since challenge now. So now I'm finally able to sit down and talk to you guys. And I thought it'd be quite nice to do an actual run through everything that happened and how it all went, because sometimes when you just watch the clips and the video, it's really hard to film when you're in a challenge and you're in that mindset. So you do kind of miss out the things about how you're feeling and just everything that happened. So I'm gonna start from the beginning, before challenge, training wise, all of that. I've received quite a few questions about the training leading up to it and all of that. So I've actually left a little section at the end for you guys. I asked on Instagram if you guys had any questions that you wanted to ask about the ultra marathon. So it's gonna be fun to scroll through those. And so before the challenge, I did the 50k about 5-6 weeks before this challenge. I hadn't actually booked the 100k until after I had completed the 50k, because I just didn't even think about doing it, to be honest. I just thought, okay, 50k, it's my first ever anything, first ever challenge. Had never done an ultra marathon before, hadn't even done a marathon before. So I think 50 was the best one to start on, and that actually went really well. It's also a way of teaching you so many different lessons about what works and what doesn't work. So for me, that was a bit like a test run. First challenge, yeah, see how things go kind of thing. And as soon as I got home, I booked the 100k. That 50k challenge was done. Had a few days rest, slowly built things up again, and then it was about 5 weeks of a training block to prepare myself for this 100k. For that 5 weeks of training, it was purely running with a little bit of gym work. It was building the running up, building the distance up, building the frequency up. And so at the start I was running about 3 times a week with 2 to 3 gym sessions in between that, and for about maximum 10k. And then throughout the weeks it got to 10k, 15k, 20k, 5 times a week. I wasn't doing 20k 5 times a week, but that was like the maximum distance. Instead of increasing the distance all the time, I was increasing the frequency over time. This kind of training block was really useful because I used everything that I had learned in the 50k, what had really gone wrong and how I can improve it for the next challenge, because you can't necessarily get away with the same kind of stuff that you did in the 50k now in the 100k, because those really small things can turn into a huge thing over such a long distance. I didn't have the right kind of running shoes. I just had a normal pair of road running shoes, which was the most unsuitable thing because it had no sole. It was like normal running shoe, no real grip. Pair of trail shoes was needed. Poles isn't essential, but when you're doing that kind of distance and you're doing those kind of inclines and declines, it can put a lot of pressure on your muscles and your joints. So a lot of people during these challenges have poles because it takes a lot of stress and weight off of your lower body. That was another thing that I really wanted to get. Also, wearing a better top, because last time I had made a charity top for the charity I was raising for, Lena Cheshire and for Mum. It wasn't a gym top, it was a pure cotton top. You know, the back chafes really showed me that that was the wrong kind of thing to wear. Get a good pair of running socks, because the socks that I had were just normal kind of gym socks, not really breathable. And also wearing leggings was not a good idea because the leggings that I wore were pretty thick and it just held all the sweat, so prone to chafing. It was not comfortable in the slightest, and so I thought, okay, let me try some bike shorts. So I have a pair of little bike shorts which I've had for years, haven't worn them for years, but I just decided to try them on, go running, and they were pretty short. I don't have very thin legs, and so the leg chafing was pretty real. I decided to get longer bike shorts which would cover more of the thighs to stop the thigh chafing, and they worked perfectly. So the next thing was the trail shoes. I was looking for ages for a good pair of trail shoes, and I came across these North Face pair which I heard good things about, so I decided to purchase a pair, give them a good run in, and I think I did about 20k run in at the start just to see how they felt, and they were really good. For running poles, I was, again, like everything that I needed, I was searching and searching for the right things. And the trail running poles, there were 2 brands that I was actually looking at, Black Diamond and Lecky. Never ever had a pair of trail running poles before, any kind of poles. So I ordered a pair of Lecky ones. They came and they were the wrong size. So yeah, for some reason, I think it's because they're not made in the UK and they're really quite difficult to ship in, I really struggled to find the right pair of trail poles. So the ones that I needed didn't come in time, which was an absolute bummer. It's really important to get the gear that is gonna work for you and that you feel comfortable in, because there's nothing worse than running in anything, like this kind of distance, especially in something that's going to be rubbing in certain places or isn't very comfortable or restricts you, just all of that. So the thing that I was really trying to ensure was making sure that I had things in good time, excluding the poles. They were just a nightmare to get a hold of. Giving them a good test run to see how they all felt, the clothes, the shoes, and then wear them constantly for all the runs. because the number one thing is make sure you don't wear anything new. So that is something which I almost stuck by. The socks came last minute, but the day before I wore them throughout the whole day, so half counts. So the week leading up to the challenge was a deload week. Very little running, little gym work, purely just focusing on recovering, stretching, rolling, just making sure the body is feeling good. So the night before I was really thinking about, okay, I don't know how this is going to play out. This is double the distance of what I did last time. And I just remembered how I was feeling at that 50k mark. I was thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that double? I don't know, in a way it was worse knowing what to expect, because I knew the pain that I was going to be in, but I knew that it was going to be even worse. So I knew what was to come. Getting on that start line, you know, you're all together, there's people there that are doing the 50k, that are doing the 100k over 2 days, or are doing the 100k continuously like I was doing, and we each have different colors for what kind of challenge that you're doing. So my start time was 7:30. I got up at 5 o'clock to get ready, sort my feet out, pack all the bags away, pack the tent away, put all of the luggage into storage, fill up the water bottles, have breakfast, all of that. And at the end of it, I literally had 15 minutes to eat and fill up my water bottle. So I was rushing around. Sometimes I just don't even know where time goes. You just end up pottering around like you have all the time in the world until it gets to like 15 minutes before. So getting on that start line, it was just so exciting. The atmosphere is so good. The music's going, they do a little warm up with you, and then the start time goes. So many people always race off. I feel like the people who haven't done it before are the ones that race off, and the ones that really know what they're in for kind of hold back a bit. This was something which I hadn't done before, so I didn't know past the 50 mark. I didn't know how it was going to feel, how basically tough it was going to be. I've never been to Yorkshire before, so I didn't know what the terrain was really going to be like. A lot of the unknown. What I like to do in those situations is preserve as much energy as possible, and even though everything inside of me is like, go, 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 go for it, you know, if I do that, I know that I would just be putting myself in a position which could really risk me getting injured or just not making it to the finish line. I also use the same approach as the 50k challenge of running flats and declines and then walking up inclines. This was a point where everyone was together because we had just set off and we hadn't reached our first pit stop yet. So everyone is kind of within reaching distance and saying hi to everyone, just enjoying the scenery. This was a first for a few people, but a lot of the people there had actually done this challenge, not necessarily in the same place, but within the same company multiple times. A lot of people that I had met had this goal of doing all of the ultra challenges because they do it in all sorts of different locations. So that is such an amazing goal. Also, a few people had met in the previous challenge as well, so it was nice to catch up with a lot of people. This event has a really nice atmosphere. It isn't one of those challenges which has this kind of atmosphere of who is the fastest. It's a very friendly, encouraging and supportive environment. So they also had the same kind of pit stops as well, because this was a longer distance, there was more pit stops along the way. They have mini pit stops every about 12 to 15k. At the main pit stops they had more food, though they had an actual hot meal. The mini pit stops have more of the snacky, the bars, the fruits, pain au chocolat. Everything was going really smoothly. I felt like I was moving quite fast because a lot of it I was running. So when I got to about 25 kilometers, I did start to feel the IT bands start to niggle. And I thought, oh my gosh, here we go. I'm not even halfway and the body's starting to niggle. I just thought, okay, I better sort this out pretty quickly before it turns into a big issue. So at that point, I was like, okay, I've really got to slow things down a bit. Otherwise, you know, the body's not going to make it. This was a point where I actually decided to change the way that I was running. Instead of running flats and declines, I was going to run every other flats and declines. that was the way that I was going to do it, and see how the body feels after that. Throughout the distances, the body became less tight, less tired, and things were starting to feel really good again. I was like, oh my gosh. So when I got to the next pit stop, I went to the medical center and they taped up both of the sides. But because I had been sweating so much from running, the tape was just not even going onto the skin. So I actually had to pull my trousers down just that little bit further to try and cover it and keep it on. A quick top up of the snacks, top of the water, energy drinks. Didn't actually have any caffeine at the beginning because I was trying to save those for when I really needed it during the night time. But all of that, toilet break, and then I was off again. Didn't really sit down for long at the beginning because I feel like once I sit down, my body starts to tighten up and I just find it really hard to get back up again. So I just normally find it best not to even sit down, just to keep on going until the point where you really need it. When you reach the pit stops, this is a time where people start to disperse themselves because people are coming in and wanting to actually sit down and eat and just have a proper relaxed time and rest, while others just grab and go, and that's something that I personally like doing at the start. So that's what I did. Off I went again. I spent quite a bit of this time on my own, just really focusing on the body, seeing how it feels, seeing where the niggles are, trying to prevent injury as much as possible. I had actually met someone along the way who his foot slipped and just kind of landed in the wrong place and he really hurt his ankle and he was out. So that's how easy it is just to injure yourself and then it's kind of game over. That was something that was on my mind quite a bit, just how the body was going to feel, if it was actually going to hold up, because even though you can have it all here mentally, it doesn't mean your body's going to hold up. And yeah, the terrain wasn't horrific. This is through the hills and the valleys and through farms and all sorts like that. Through the hills, it was more like long stretches of incline, which wasn't really steep, but because it's a long stretch of incline, I find it quite challenging to run on that terrain because it puts a lot of pressure and tightens up my muscles, which causes the niggles and the pains. So I can't actually run uphill for a long period of time. Also, it's not great for your body to do that either. Also going through stiles and gates and through farms, then you go through fields of cattle and cows, and then you're in the next field with sheep, and in the next field you're in with horses. So the terrain is very different, but the landscape is just so amazing that it makes your running so much more enjoyable because it's just different scenery all the time. Even though you're doing such a huge distance, you're also going on roads, through hills, through forests, you know, such a diverse kind of terrain. It keeps things really exciting. Along the way, I was running with this female. You know, you talk about all sorts of things, you know, where they've come from, how many challenges they've done, a bit about their lifestyle. You find out so much information about so many different people. It's really interesting. And this female had done 157, I'm going to say that again, 157 ultra marathons. I was like, what? I was like, do you like these? She goes, no, not really. Everyone says that. They do them, but they're like, I don't actually like them. So I said, you know, why do you do them then? And she just said, you know, it's just a challenge, and once you reach the end, it's so worth it. And I was like, but 157? That's just a crazy number of ultra marathons. She must have been doing them for years, but she was saying about how many more she's got planned. She's got another ultra marathon planned in a couple of weeks' time. And so I was speaking to her about, okay, so you've done it 157 times. What's your words of advice? What can you recommend? What have I put myself in for? She said, a lot of pain. I was like, yes, definitely expected. 25k was pick a mix. So of course I grabbed myself some Jelly Babies again. They had all sorts of different other sweets, Coca-Cola bottles, eggs, you name it. Picked up some Freddos as well. Re-strapped up, re-taped up. Went to the bathroom, well, Portaloo toilet, and was back on the road again. As things were going, things were feeling pretty good. The countdown was beginning to reach the 50k. They have the same as before, where they have every kilometer they'll have this signpost, and they're really good with all their directions. They have like this luminous pink. They said, I can't remember the words that they used, but something like think pink. It's like if you're lost, think pink or something. Well, saying that, I did take the wrong turning actually at that point because I didn't see the sign. I just think about that moment actually, because I was going downhill, because there was like this 2 crossroads, and there was one going slightly uphill and one going downhill. And somehow I was just in the zone. I wasn't really looking for the signs. I was just following the path that was going around, and just happened to be the one on the decline. And luckily this lady saw me going down the wrong road, because I was pretty far down this road, and I just heard this shouting. I looked behind, she was like, "You're going down the wrong road." I was like, no. I've added on distance to my 62 miles. Reaching 50k was a bit like a milestone for me, because this was the distance that I had done before, and it's the maximum distance I've ever done. I just went through this headspace of comparing how I was feeling, and I was absolutely battered during the 50k challenge previously, and at this point, reaching the 50k this time, I felt pretty good. Things were feeling, yeah. I was thinking, oh my gosh, what am I feeling? As battered as I was before. But this time, I think because you know that you're doing a greater distance, it's important to preserve that little bit of energy so you know you're gonna make it further. But this was a main pit stop as well. So what happened this time, they did like a circular route, like a figure of 8. So the first figure of the 8 was the first half, 50k, and then you come back to actually where you started to do the last bit of the 50k to come back to where you finish. So I was actually back at the beginning, which just felt completely strange. I was like, okay, I'm back at the beginning. You know, all my stuff's here. I dropped off a little bag into this bag drop-off section so I could collect it along the way. I had spare clothing, spare socks, my favourite protein bar in there, as well as morale. Went into the bathroom, re-strapped all of my feet, which I probably didn't have to do, but I didn't know how it was going to last later down the line, so I thought, okay, just better strip off everything now, feel fresh, feel good, so I'm in the best position for the next 50k. Got myself some good food. 50k is a main stop. This is a pit stop where I actually decided to sit down, rest the feet. Someone had taken their shoes off and was walking around barefoot. You know, anything goes. They had, I think, vegetable curry and spaghetti bolognese. I had a nice spaghetti bolognese, had a cup of coffee, got a bit of biscuits as well, more snacks, did the usual fill up, bathroom, re-tape up, walking out of the tent, heading towards the start of the second half. I was thinking, right, okay, this is unknown territory, and I know that this is a point where there's going to be a lot of pain. I knew that was all coming, so set off on my own, went through this little village and started the uphill climb. Also, I thought this was a time where I would whap out the headphones, put a bit of motivational tunes on, getting in that mindset of just zoning out. I really felt like this huge mindset change of focus. Before, it was more like going quite quickly with the running and stuff, but also enjoying everyone's company and talking a lot more. But this time, because you don't have as much energy, the body isn't feeling as good as it was at the start, I really felt like I had to focus and completely zone out. From the 50k, I was on my own till about 75k. Another pit stop was in between that as well, with the usual snacks and all of that. The hamstrings were really tight to the point where I couldn't walk as well because I couldn't bend my legs properly. The quads were feeling really sore because it was constantly incline, decline, incline, decline all the time. The ankles from all of the rocky terrain. Yeah, body was definitely feeling it. But also this big problem that I had was nausea. The nausea was, it was horrific. To be honest, a lot of it wasn't really good on my side because I was eating a lot of the snacky stuff rather than getting actual proper bars. But when you have like good choice but also limited choice, because it's very similar throughout the whole pit stops. So basically the main things that I was picking up were Freddos and Kit Kats and Jelly Babies. I didn't really go into this race knowing a lot about nutrition or what works best for me while I'm running and how the stomach feels while running as well, and eating and all of that. That's also a thing which probably played a huge part in it, was running and eating. Yeah, pretty bad. So there on out, I could only really have water. I didn't want to eat at all because I just felt so sick. But then I knew that I had to keep eating. This is the thing, guys. You're burning so many calories. You're sweating out so much. You have these energy drinks to try and replenish your salt and replace all the things that you've been sweating out, and eating to replace the calories that you've lost because you're constantly moving. It was a constant battle of doing that. This is something that I was really getting an understanding of nutrition and what works during an ultra marathon. So there was a lot of Jelly Babies and Freddo still left in my pouches, but I was basically drinking mainly water at this point because I had so much energy drink that just the thought of it was, so I would say about 75 k's in was a huge decline mentally and physically. This point I was like, okay, now I'm hitting the wall. This is where I know I'm gonna have to really push it, no matter how much I'm hurting or feeling my body's in pain, my stomach's in pain, I feel exhausted, just everything was not feeling good. It started to rain as well, it was starting to get dark, so I was actually through the hills at this point in this kind of grass area which looked like Jurassic Park. That was actually my favorite kind of environment and favorite kind of terrain, just going through the mountains like that, through these like great bushes, and it was super cool. I stopped, I got my waterproof jacket on, put my head torch on. They have these glow in the dark sticks as well on these signs that they've placed, and the signs that they had up is also glow in the dark. I was given a glow in the dark stick as well, so I had that on my back. Because it was also raining as well, the terrain was very muddy, so it was starting to become really slippery as well, and it was all just becoming pretty tiring at this point, and you're just feeling mentally and physically drained. There was a pit stop at 75 kilometers, and this was a one where you could actually grab hot food, and what they were serving was fajitas in a wrap with coleslaw. It was like coleslaw with chicken in a wrap with salad. I was like, coleslaw in a wrap? And then also wedgies. I had so many coffees at this point just to keep myself awake. So I was heaping this caffeine into my cup. I took a first bite, and they make the foods a little bit more salty to try and replenish the lost salts, because it's something that's really hard to do. And I just couldn't digest it. It was so hard to eat, but you know that you've got to force the food down. They had salted peanuts, and I thought, okay, I need something salty, because at this point you've been sweating for about 14 hours. High in fat, high in energy, high in salts, not heavy on the stomach. I thought, this could be it. This could be the snack. So I took a few packets of those, put it in my running vest. I'm leaving this pit stop. Because it's dark, you need to leave with someone else as well. Luckily, I met this guy along the way who we happened to be going at the same pace. We decided to basically team up and go together. From going through a lot of that second half on my own to about 75k, it was actually quite nice to be with someone and have that support, because it's like an extra boost of morale. I found that when I was on my own, when it was dark, I was like, any sort of noise, I'm like, I'm scared of the dark. So being in this huge fields of huge hills, just purely on my own, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is like a horror story right here. So it was nice to be with someone along the way, and even though we were hardly talking, because this was a point where the forecast had actually said it was going to rain, but the wind was howling and the rain was absolutely battering, that we just stuck our head down and just went through it. There was this huge incline, which was the most horrific terrain of just rocks, which are now slippery and loose. It was 10 kilometers of just pure incline rocky terrain. It was the longest 10 kilometers, 6 miles, because it just felt like it was going on forever. But you know, just kept going. I knew that it was on the home stretch, we're on the home run, we didn't have long to go. Even though everything at this point was telling me, why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you doing this? I knew that if I had given up and packed it in and went home at this point, the feeling that I'd have from giving up would just be even more horrific than how I was feeling. So even though you have these voices in your head telling you to stop, it's just one foot in front of the other. And that's something that I was telling myself, just one foot in front of the other. It's easy. That's how easy it is. Just keep going, one foot. Next foot. You're doing it, you know, keep going. These are the words that I was telling myself when I was in that zone of, this is freaking painful and it's really tough, and having to go to places in my mind that I have never been before, and the feeling of pain that I've never felt before. Just everything was so, it was a challenge. But I knew it was going to get even harder. So at that point of the challenge, that was a point where a lot of people had actually dropped out. I only remember seeing about maximum 6 to 8 people. These were kind of familiar faces along the way, so each pit stop we'd see them again and we'd be with them at the next pit stop. So at the next pit stop after that, this mini pit stop was at 90k. The last before the finish line, the end of the challenge, the 100 kilometers, only 10 more k's to go. When I thought the body was feeling bad before, it was almost unmovable at this point. So much pain. Oh my gosh. I did have a sit down, which I knew wasn't going to be the best thing, but I knew that I had to rest. I tried to stretch out, but it was at that point of no return. The body was gone. I was like, okay, I've just, you know, it's 10 more k's to go, 6 miles. We can do this. Nothing just really mattered at this point. It's just, please don't get injured. Please don't get injured. That was what I was thinking. The body was actually feeling at breaking point. That 10k, I didn't actually think I'd make it. Yeah, it was really, really tough. Mentally, you know, I was gonna push through anything, but the body was just finished, completely finished, to the point where I couldn't actually walk. This 10k was probably the slowest 10k I've ever done. I couldn't run anymore. I was practically hobbling the whole way, in the most pain I've ever felt in my life. But the countdown was on. Yeah, it was horrific, to say the least. But coming up to that last 5k, 4k, 3k, you know, 2k, 1k was just home run. I was like this along the way. I was like, come on. It was pitch black. It was in the middle of the night, beginning to be early morning, and just seeing that finish line. Do you know what? Normally, guys, I always say I like to finish on a high. I like to preserve the energy and then just give everything that I have when it's coming up to the finishing kind of distances, so I know that I'm going to finish it. I had nothing left, absolutely finished. Yeah, but my gosh, crossing that 100k finish line was the best feeling in the whole world. Yeah, it was so good. Because it was the middle of the night, not like the 50k that I did before, which finished during the daytime. They didn't have the music on, they didn't have you know, the people waiting around and all of that. So it was just a very different atmosphere as well. It was more relaxed and chilled. It was just a few people there. They handed you a medal, congratulated you, handed you your t-shirt saying finisher. 62 miles, 100k finished, complete. So yeah, the next thing, guys, of course, I was thinking, food. So I went and grabbed myself a hot dog for breakfast. But sitting down, having a very, very early breakfast, having a cup of coffee, just reflecting on everything that had happened, it was just the most amazing experience. So amazing. And I think just by doing 2 ultra marathons, it can teach you so much about yourself and what you're capable of. So coming to the end of the video, guys, I did ask on my Instagram what you guys wanted to ask me. So I have a few questions here. First one here is, did you follow a specific training plan? Yes, I did. Knowing that I have to have a plan in place to be at the distance and be at the running kind of fitness level that I want to be, to put myself in the best position to achieve the 62 miles. So what I did was start running short distances, easy runs, my normal running distances of 5k, 7k, a few times a week, 2-3 times a week, and then gradually build it up. At the end of the 5 weeks, I was running about 10 to 20k, normally about 4 to 5 times a week, with a bit of fitness and strength training in there as well. Because even though ultra marathon is running, you are constantly battering, you're doing inclines, you're doing declines, you need a baseline of strength there as well. And so another question that I have is, what did you pack? I packed quite a lot of stuff actually, but the main things were the running socks, the running shorts, leggings, just making sure that I had all of my kit. Your wet kit, your warm kit you need to have, because you don't know what the weather's going to be like on race day. I bought tape with me to tape my feet up, some blister plasters. I also used baby powder on my feet as well, bringing my tent and sleeping system, bringing a bit of snacks as well for the travel up there and the day after. I overpacked things because you never know what you're going to need when you get there, and it's always better to have more stuff than not enough. I didn't pack a huge amount of blister plasters or tape or baby powder or deep rub or anything like that, because I knew that they were going to have that along the way, because in the medical kind of pit stop they have that kind of stuff to help you. So you've got to also think about limiting weight with what you're bringing. What the things, actually just saw a question about this. A few things that I would change. A few things that would have been really helpful is poles. But another one was also getting a waterproof, which one of those really small ones, a compactable one. So it doesn't take up all the room in my running vest. So it's also throughout the run, it's limiting what you do bring as well. So things that you don't have to bring, you don't bring. But at the end of the run, my running vest was pretty much filled of Freddos. So leading on to the next question is, what would you do differently and why? Running poles, waterproof jacket would have definitely helped, but also paying a good attention to my nutrition and maybe doing some like test runs with different types of foods along the way over long periods, see how the stomach reacts. I do a lot of running and eating along the way, not just having Freddos and Kit Kats. I now know that salted peanuts is really good, so that's definitely a good one for next time. But I may actually bring my own bars. Like, I had a protein bar in my bag halfway and that was amazing. So paying better attention to nutrition and maybe packing my own bars, own food next time. Also, I changed into long leggings the second half because I was a bit concerned about how much the weather was going to decline during the night time and how cold it was going to be. I knew that it was going to be very wet and rainy for most of the night as well. Next time I'd actually stay in bike shorts, because those bike shorts were they were like a dry fit brand which I picked up from North Face. They were amazing. They were lightweight, very movable, comfortable. They didn't hold sweat, but these leggings, they're thick, they don't dry very well. You're just running with basically wet trousers and it becomes very uncomfortable and you're just prone to worst chafing. So next time, definitely staying in bike shorts. Also guys, I picked up some chafing cream, this little tub, just got it on Amazon. It prevented chafing and back rubs for, I think, until about 50k, which was a huge improvement from the last 50k challenge. I applied it every time I was in the toilet, you know, the legs and the back. It was amazing, so that's also something which could be very handy. So the next question that we have is, what kind of running shoes did you wear, and were they different from the usual ones? So running shoes that I normally wear for not kind of trail running is the New Balance pair. So I've been wearing New Balance for quite a long time, and it's my go-to brand. I absolutely love them. They're lightweight, they're super comfortable. It's like you're running on foam. It's amazing. I tend to wear those for normal running shoes, but for the current trail shoes that I have the North Face ones. I basically found these, loved them thankfully, and stuck to them. But I think it's a good idea to also try out different brands so you can see which ones feel right for you. So the last question that I'm going to answer with you guys is, did you train with music? I find it difficult running without it. So I do train with music because living in the city, running through parks is very different than running in nature. When I go into the hills in Surrey and in the greenery and the outdoors, I don't tend to have headphones on because it's an environment which I love, and I love listening to nature. I'm one of those people that just immerse myself in nature because it's just freedom to me. But being in the city, I like to zone out. I like to block everything out. So that is the 100 kilometer challenge, guys. Exciting times to come. Exciting. But I'll let you guys know what the next thing is real soon. There is a pretty big announcement coming, which I'm gonna let you guys know in a few weeks' time. It's a pretty big one. A big decision. Yeah. But I hope you guys have a good day, and see you soon.